Welcome to Agile World Better English. Agile World was created by Sabrina Bruce and Carl Smith to focus on agility within a global community. We're just one flavor of the Agile world. Andrea, just in case you don't know, we have Agile Worlds in Spanish and English, and we have Hindi, and we have Portuguese. It's insane. It's everywhere, all over the world, all sorts of languages. I'm Cynthia Kahn, founder of GSD Mindset and Agile Consultancy. My co-host, Steve Mowbray, and I are passionate about Agile. Through this podcast, we share experiences of how others have applied Agile principles to become successful. So hopefully you too can apply those principles and achieve everything you want. Steve, why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Cynthia, and welcome to Agile World. I am Steve Mowbray. I'm an enterprise Agile coach, and I am very excited today to talk about Agile marketing. Well, actually, I'm not going to talk about Agile marketing, but we have an expert on Agile marketing, and it just makes so much sense because, you come up with a marketing campaign. Do you know how everybody's going to respond? No, you don't, but you have to put all those things in play, and then you have to respond to change, and you have to go with what you learn. So what could possibly make more sense for agility than something like Agile marketing? And today we are here with our friend from Boulder, Colorado, Andrea Fryrear. And Andrea, what's up? How you doing?
I am doing great. I am so excited to geek out with you guys today about agility and marketing.
Just so that you know, Andrea is the CEO and founder of the company Agile Sherpas. She is the author of Mastering Marketing Agility, and she is pro. I see Agile marketing certifications, and she teaches it. So not only does she walk her talk, she educates and she expands agility for all of marketing people. Go. So, Andrea, tell us a little bit about your background and how you decided, or what was that aha moment when you realized, I want to be Agile, except I'm in marketing, and how am I going to get my people to be Agile with me? How am I going to bring them along?
Yeah, it was a bit of a schlep to get everybody on board, but yeah, I'm a marketer by trade. I've been in digital marketing my whole professional career, and but I have an English degree. So I didn't go to school for marketing, which is kind of the norm in our profession for whatever reason. People sort of stumble into being a marketer accidentally, which happened to me. I was the youngest person at my first job. And so they were like, you must know how to run a website. Here you go. And so then, of course, you have a website, you have to get people to it, and thus marketing. Once content marketing became a thing, my parents were delighted that my English degree could actually earn me a living. And so I started doing content marketing for a software company. We could not keep up. They were Agile, and they would have things on their product roadmap that would come out early. And we were just like, how? That's not okay. Like, we're not prepared for you to be moving this fast and to be releasing this often. And we couldn't keep up. And so I eventually said, these guys are Agile developers. Why can't we be Agile marketers so that we can move at the same kind of pace and be responsive in the same way that they are, instead of working, 12-hour days to try to keep up? And my boss was like, it couldn't possibly be worse than what we're doing now, so let's try. And the rest, I suppose, is history. Being a writer, I wrote about what we were doing. And more people started to reach out and say, hey, could you help me do that too? And then eventually that turned into my full-time job.
Wow. Well, we do have a lot of marketing peeps that do watch the show, because Steve also has a strong marketing background. And so can you tell a little bit of like the before and the after of Agile marketing? Like, what was it before? Or what was it like before? I mean, I know it's really a good go ahead. It can't be worse than it is now. Well, it's not exactly.
It was not worse. Spoiler alert, it was not worse. No, we were just able to move in step with the developers in such a cool way. We would go to their stand-ups, they would come to ours. And as they were saying, this feature turned out to take longer than we thought, so we're going to do this thing instead. We could, in real time, alongside them say, okay, well, then we're not going to finish up that campaign. We're going to put that on hold, or we're going to do this piece of content instead, or we're going to promote in a different way. And we could really be responsive instead of like, well, this is what's on the quarterly plan for marketing and it's going out. This is what's happening, like whether it's the right thing or not. There were two really cool outcomes. We were able to hit our numbers much better, right? The outcomes of the marketing work were better, and our people were much happier. Like everyone was more engaged and less stressed out, which in turn creates better product, right? We're trying to connect with customers. And if we're all stressed out, we're not really thinking about the best way to do that. We're just trying to think about how to get from one day to the next.
So that's
Very cool.
interesting. So extended cross-functional teams to literally include other departments so that you can keep up and move in lockstep with each other.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we were necessarily like a true team. Like, you know, they ran their process and we ran ours. We learned very quickly that sort of by the book Scrum was not for us. And we needed to get a bit more hybridized and bring in some Kanban flow type activities to match up with the type of work we did. But because we now spoke Agile, at least, you know, we could communicate with our software counterparts much better.
Interesting. So you were actually keeping your own Kanban boards or sprint boards?
Yeah, they had boards, we had boards. You could follow along with everybody's. You know, we used Trello at the time, so you could log into everybody's Trello board and see, and we would tag one another and there would be interdependencies amongst the boards. But it just became, just by creating visibility, right? You get so much more clarity about what's going on and who needs to do what and when.
So what was the impetus for you actually starting Agile Sherpas?
Yeah, so I kept getting asked to help other people. And so I left my full-time gig to go and try to be sort of an Agile coach for hire. I never thought I wanted to be an entrepreneur. That was not like what I thought I would do. I saw a problem and I wanted to go and solve it. And I was fortunate enough to meet a co-founder who worked for a training organization, and he saw the potential of Agile inside of marketing being a new avenue for training, certification, transformation. So we joined forces to start Agile Sherpas. We helped create the certification with IC Agile. And then we just sort of like hit a nerve in a lot of ways of need that people had. And things just started growing like crazy. And now we have, you know, 12 trainers and all over the world. And, you know, we'll be a multi-million-dollar company this year. And it's just like, this is happening now. And here we are. So
that's so exciting. So if someone wants to bring agility into their organization and they're doing marketing, what process do you recommend? Is certification a good way to start, or would you look for a consulting firm like Agile Sherpas, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think the certification is a great place to start. It's really designed to give you like a solid foundation in what's an MVP, how do you visualize work, why should you have a stand-up, some of those really essential practices. It's very framework agnostic, because that's what I think marketers really need. And you could go and take what you learn and apply it, especially at an individual or a small team level. But I think if you're in a big enterprise, you really do need a group of people around you, whether that's an internal like Agile Center of Excellence, or whether you get an external consultant like Agile Sherpas. Once you get into that bigger transformative effort, you really just can't be a solo person trying to drive it forward, unless maybe you have a C at the start of your job title, then you might be able to get away with it. But most individual contributors are going to need to bring some heft with them to really go and make significant change happen.
That's one of the things I think universally, since they came up with a Scrum guide and everything else and the Agile Manifesto, that Scrum or Agile originally was thought of as a team sport, but you need to think much bigger than that, because it's so hard to push. Grassroots change works maybe in politics or something, but it's really difficult in a larger organization. So it's awesome that there are people like you who come in and do that. So is it usually CEOs that come in, or marketing CMOs? Is that what they're called? Chief Marketing Officers? And is that how you kind of become engaged?
Best case scenario, yeah, we come in with a strong executive sponsor. And like you said, that's true for any transformative effort. If you've got executive sponsorship, you've got a better chance of success. But we also end up working closely with heads of operations, so marketing ops people who are interested in process and improving the flow of work across all of the marketing activities. Especially in a really big enterprise organization, you end up with silos, right? So the content people and the social people and the email people and the marketing technology people, and they never talk, right? And there's duplicative effort and waste in the system and all of the same kinds of problems that plagued software development in its pre-agile days are showing up in marketing now. And so being able to look across all those groups is often the job of operations. And so we tend to work with them at times as well.
Interesting. So you're a writer. You've written a couple of books. Your most recent book is Mastering Marketing Agility. How did that come about? I mean, obviously, because you like to write, but tell us a little bit about that and how it's really helped or changed the lives of people who maybe are smaller companies and can't afford, like they're not going through a major transformation. How does that help?
Yeah, I mean, the book is comes from the same place that most of the content we create at Agile Sherpas does, which is it's the documentation of what we're learning, right? It's what we've been doing with our clients and the frameworks that we've been implementing with thousands of marketers over the last several years. And it was really just, I kind of had this moment where I was like, I keep explaining the same thing over and over again. It would be faster to just write it all down. And so the book is it's really like end to end. If I was going to come in and work with you as a consultant to transform your marketing organization, this is what we would do, right? And it's all there. So yeah, if you don't have the giant budget that's needed for, to bring in an outside firm to help you transform, then hopefully you could follow along yourself, and with what's in the book. But it's pretty true to how we work with clients. And yeah, it's a way to help as many people as possible, which is what I love about writing and about content. It's doing work while you're sleeping and you can't help everybody yourself. So it keeps going all the time.
That's a great way to look at it. So for people who are considering it, what are some of your top like 2 or 3 go-to techniques so that people get an idea about how they could maybe be a little bit different? Of course, they should go out and buy the book, but if they're listening now and they're like, I don't get it,
Yeah.
let's help them do that.
For sure. I mean, none of it has to be super complicated at first, right? It's like I was saying about visibility. Just get it out where you can see it first and foremost. Whether that's for yourself, like I'm a big fan of start with your own work. And that's what I did before I managed to convince my boss, is I built my own personal Kanban board. I was one of the only writers in the building. And so people were always coming to me and asking me for stuff. And when I could start saying, here's everything I've got going, like, where does your request actually fall in the list of stuff? Then the conversations totally shifted to be more strategic and less, I really need you to do this thing right now. And so creating a backlog and a visualization of some kind, a Kanban board essentially, for yourself, or however big you can get that, right? However big your scope of control is, visualize all of it. And immediately you see, oh, we're doing too much. Like inevitably that will be what you learn, right? We're working on too many things at one time and we need to de-scope and prioritize. And then we can start having better conversations about what work is important and to whom and why. And then you can focus. And maybe that leads you to wanting to create some sprints, right? Where you can focus in a short time box. Maybe you don't need that. Some marketing teams really don't jam on that. But the visualization, I think, is like the best first step for anybody and everybody, regardless of who you are or what kind of work that you do.
So you used a Kanban board originally to organize your own work. Are you still using Kanban boards in your personal life?
Oh yes. Oh yes. I would be lost at sea without my Kanban board and my very strict personal WIP limit of 2. Like I will not work on more than 2 things at any given time. And that is the only thing that keeps me sane. Yeah. And it's been that way for years now.
Oh, you should see my honeydew list. I've had a terrible time trying to limit to just two things in my whip limit at any given time. And sometimes we have had to go through my list. I have had to show my honeydew Kanban board to my wife before. So we can go through and say, okay, here's everything we got going. Which one's most important to you? So you went to college and you became an English major.
Mhm.
And did you know this is Agile World Better English? This is the Agile World Better English version because when Carl and Sabrina started this over in England, no one could understand them. They talk funny or something like that. But so Carl wanted to make sure that we had, and he named it. He's lives in Edinburgh right now, and he insisted that we call this Agile World Better English. So there you are. You're helping us improve our English. So thank you for that.
Anytime.
Now, but you've expanded. Now, how long have you been doing these classes? Because IC Agile, 5 years ago didn't have a marketing course, right?
Yeah. It'll be March of next year. It'll be the 4th. That'll be like the 4th birthday, I guess, of the marketing specific.
Oh, wow.
cert.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. And, it's one of the reasons that I really am happy to partner with IC Agile. They're so committed to business agility. They have a whole track now, right? With they have an HR cert and a finance one. So it's nice to broaden the number of people that can be helped. But it's very interesting. Like, I've had fascinating conversations with fellow coaches who feel like we're splintering unnecessarily, right? So like, why do we need a marketing specific one? Why can't everybody just learn the same key ideas? And I think it's a really fascinating trajectory is to decide, like, do we need it to be that niche down? And I mean, obviously, because my entire company focuses on non-IT stuff, it's clear where I stand on that. But we hear it from our clients over and over and over again. They're like, it's so nice to hear somebody give examples of work that I understand and like speak my language. Nobody's talking about releases and features, because it's just not relevant. And creates an extra level of cognitive load if you're saying, translate everything that I say to reply to your work while I'm trying to teach you a completely new way to manage your entire process. It's just too much, so.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the same principles. And what you had spoke when we spoke about a year and a half ago, and you said, we speak different languages. And so I think people, you're not really saying there's marketing agile and then there's HR agile. What you're saying is there's agility. You want people to think differently, but what we're doing is teaching you in language you understand, just like Agile World has Portuguese and Spanish and English and Better English and everything else. It's because people want to hear what they want to hear in a way that they can understand it. And that way they can internalize it a lot easier, I think.
Yeah. And one of the things, it's so good to hear that you've expanded into different areas. And, when we think about agility, and people forget about the concept of agility in general. They just think Agile, it's the manifesto, that's what it says, it's for software. I've actually heard people say, we don't do software, we don't know anything about Agile. Like, well, wait a second. Okay, you're missing the boat here. Because we've talked to a number of guests where, the conversation has been, if people knew one thing, what would that be? One, we had April K. Mills was all about flow and, the theory of constraints.
Change management.
If people understood you can only get so much through the system at one time, finish it first before you start something else. And that's where she got her start in the whole Agile world. And then we were talking with Max a few weeks ago.
Max Akezi, who's the president of Agile Lost.
Yes. And Max, wanted to focus on the fact that, people needed to make sure that I forget, what was it? Visibility, I forget what it was, but if everybody focuses
it was important.
And visibility and priorities and just prioritizing your work, everything else falls in place.
Yeah. Yeah. We have so many clients that get fixated on Agile projects. They're like, we need to run more Agile projects. The more Agile projects there are, the better, the more successful. And it's not, right? You're like, that's not the point, right? The point is focus. The point is customer value more often with less risk, right? And so the number of projects you run using Agile is so not the right metric for gauging any of that.
Oh, it's not the amount of the number of certified Scrum Masters you have on staff. That's ching, ching, ching.
Oh yeah, no, not that one either.
And it's also so great to know that you were doing this work for years and achieving success with organizations before you started teaching people. One of the things that has happened the last few years is many people have just gone into teaching and have never delivered any value and have a challenge with the concepts. So, going from the fundamentals to the application is very challenging. So I imagine when people sit down with you, you've done the work, you've been at the ground floor, you've been at, it sounds like, a variety of different companies. So when you're starting to do the training, you got something to support your background there.
Yeah. And you start to see the patterns, right? Like everybody feels like we are in trouble and we're different and our problems are the worst problems that have ever been had by any human. And you're like, no, this is, you're like 90% like the problems that, everyone else has, but you're still special for sure. And, we're going to come up with a special solution just for you. But, there's similarities across different implementations. And I do think that too is why it's important to have specialized subject matter experts supporting the different functions, right? I would not presume to go and coach an HR team. Like I have never worked in HR. I don't know what your particular challenges are or why it might be difficult to implement Agile in that environment. No idea whatsoever. I mean, I've interviewed for jobs and I've hired people, but like that's the extent. And it's the same thing that just because people have interacted with a website or opened a marketing email, they don't know marketing work. They don't know the complexities of what that's like. And so respecting other people's universe of experience and coming in to try to meet them where they are. I just think it resonates much more.
Yeah, that's the key. So one thing we've started ending with is a little bit about your vision for the Agile future. So we've got, where you are and all the things that you've done because of where you've been. And for you, it's a perfect question, right? We're seeing agility being not pushed out, but like pulled in from people in a whole bunch of different disciplines and speaking the language of the discipline. What do you see in the future? We don't have to worry about that because we're all going to be thinking with agility, or what do you think?
No, I think we're heading for a renaissance, like I think a lot of folks who have been like chipping away and trying to help people be more agile for a long, long time, it's easy to feel jaded, right? And like, it's hard to make progress and people are resistant. But I think as we're broadening the world of people that are interested and passionate about agile ways of working, we're going to learn different things, right? They have different ideas. There's going to be new frameworks, new practices, new principles, maybe. All of these things can get a rejuvenation from more and more people coming in. So I'm super optimistic about where we're going and why it's cool to have different kinds of people coming into the movement and bringing their perspectives.
Awesome. That's lovely. I hope your Agile future comes to life. I'm sure it will.
Yeah. Now, in the last four years, when you've been delivering these classes and these courses, what has surprised you?
I am continually surprised at how the idea of multitasking or being able to like spread oneself as thin as possible is still held as a badge of honor by so many people. And that the ability to focus and limit your work in progress is somehow like still equated to laziness or being ineffective or something. Despite all the data now, right, that says humans don't multitask, we are not doing it, right? It's context switching and you're losing all this time. That's a continual like barrier, I think, to a lot of people, which I'm surprised. Almost every time I teach a class, surprised by. There's always somebody who's going, no, I don't buy it. There's no way that focused effort on one thing is a better idea. Every time.
Isn't it Toyota and the benefit of small batches? I mean, you should start opening up your textbook. Go, you see here, benefit of small batches.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because just a few weeks ago, a director openly admitted to everybody on a call, and there was a bunch of coaches on the call. He was like, you know what? Obviously, we're failing because no one can find time on my calendar. I'm in too many meetings, which proves beyond any doubt that our process is broken.
Because he's in meetings, or
no, because he needed to be the decision maker in all those meetings. People had to ask him for permission for everything.
oh, okay.
And we needed to empower the team so we could implement some flow, right?
But at least he realized, like, that's a great step.
Oh, I was just absolutely thrilled to hear that. I just thought that was such a brilliant statement. And he knew it. He's been around the block long enough. There's been some turmoil in the organization, and so, he's kind of had things kind of collapse around him a little bit. So he's trying to prop it back up to empower the team so we can have that flow and help everybody achieve agility. So I thought that was wonderful.
So you're doing Agile at home too, or besides your own personal board? Do you?
Oh yes. My husband and I have a shared board. We moved during the pandemic, and so all of the moving tasks went on the Kanban board. And oh yeah, my kids know all about boards, that we make it when it's chore day. They love it. They think it's still fun. But they're only 7 and 10, so they're not quite like, over mom's weird job yet. But
awesome. Sure. That's terrific.
Yes, my teenage daughter, I guess when she was 17, she saw some Elmo cards on my desk. She was like, "What are these for?" I'm like, "Oh, we use those in meetings. You hold it up, says Elmo." She's like, "Oh, your job sounds like fun." Like, well, sometimes we have to have fun. So how did your family get through this whole process of moving during the pandemic? How did you find you had to buy a house and move? That's a big challenge.
Yeah, it was a must-have. I used to travel every week to clients, and that stopped immediately. And my husband is in software. He's a UX guy. And he went from going to the office every day to never going to the office. And we were like working back to back in our tiny basement, and it was not okay. So we had to do it. And you just get it done. And it was a long process, and I've sworn I'll never do it again. So we'll see how long that holds up.
Wow. But you and your husband are both focusing on human behavior.
Yeah, we have very interesting conversations about people and what they do and why they do it.
That's fascinating because UX, yes, it requires a major set of technical skills, but it also requires a deep knowledge and a curiosity about humans and human behavior, and so does marketing, right? Because your technical knowledge is going to be vastly deeper in many areas than mine ever will be because of that. But you also have that curiosity for humans and how they behave, why they make the decisions they do. So that's fascinating.
Yeah. And it's all the small changes that create like unexpectedly big changes in behavior, right? Oh, I changed the font on this button, and now 30% more people clicked on it. Like, what's going on with that? Yeah.
Oh, and I am terrible at choosing fonts and graphics. When I had my own marketing company, it was just small. There was just a few of us. I had contractors, but I was able to run it for about 8 years. I got to the point where I couldn't do graphics and UX because I never knew when it was done. I could spend 8 hours on something. I could spend 30 minutes on something and get the same results, but I never knew when it was done. So your husband has a gift. You obviously have a gift. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
So we're about 25 minutes in. Is there something you'd like to share with the audience about agility, about how it can be applied for human behavior, marketing, what they should do? What are your words of wisdom?
I think all of the great outputs and benefits of agile ways of working all boil down to the fact that it forces you to focus. Like it keeps you from running amok in your own head or in your own to-do list. My pre-agile days, I was a to-do list person, right? It felt good to write everything down, check things off. But I realized as soon as I knew what a backlog was, that it's that element of prioritization that most of us are missing. And so we just do stuff but it's not like the important stuff. And having had to run a business now for the last 4.5 years and write 2 books and have 2 small children and still like stay married, it's all priorities all the time. Just what's the most important thing to do right now? And I already know, right? It's already in a backlog. So I don't have to waste all my productive time trying to figure out what to do in my productive time. And it looks like a superpower on the outside. That's for people who do it, individuals, and for teams who do it. Like to somebody on the outside, it looks like they're just amazingly productive and so collaborative and innovative and all those great things. But it's just about focus. And if you don't focus, you never move anything forward, whether it's your own personal stuff or your team stuff or your organization stuff. And so, yeah, I think that's like the secret of why Agile looks amazing, because it just forces you to focus. As long as you follow what it's asking you to do.
Okay, so focus on what's visible and what's high priority.
Yeah, and ignore everything else. Like deliberately and intentionally say no to everything else.
That's
You're a girl after my own heart. Yeah. From whenever I speak, I go, I call at GSD, we call it FAR, focus, accomplish something now, and then reflect, right? And figure out if you're going in the right direction, especially for marketing, right? And decide whether you can't keep going or you need to pivot. And I think successful businesses of the future, and you'll be helping them as well as me and well as Steve, because we've all got it, is that successful business in the future will understand the concept of FAR. And that is how we will all have a better and brighter future, right? Because I tell my clients, you're in business, you're not in busyness. So you've got to stop measuring like how many, because then they get into like how many cards they've done. So they break things down smaller and smaller. And I'm like, well, that's not really an accomplishment. That's a task. You know what I mean? So that they can get more things. And it's the same thing with the whole concept. And we're not going to get into that today, but like with story points or whatever it is, you're right. Focus. That's the first thing.
Create value. The sooner you create value, the better off you are. And probably the sooner you get something done, the more valuable it's going to be. So that's amazing. I think you have many superpowers, and we'll definitely consider you a superhuman. Even though you're just implementing agility, still, it's not that easy, especially with 2 kids, especially at that age, and moving and working from home. That's a big challenge. So, go ahead and pat yourself on the back. You've done an amazing job. That could not have been easy.
Steve, it's very clear that you must be a very good coach. I think you're good at what you do.
I just call it like I see it. So
he makes you feel good, doesn't he? Well, that's the first thing. You're important.
Well, she is important, and
I know
what you did was pretty freaking amazing, right? So,
undoubtedly.
So, with you and your husband, I'd love to learn more about your kids. I'd love to learn more about your family. We have been about 30 minutes in. If there's so much more for you to share, but maybe it's time to end this, and maybe we could do this again. I want to learn more.
Yeah.
So where do we find out about Agile Sherpas, the Masters of Marketing Agility? And not everybody knows what IC Agile is. So maybe you could tell a little bit about that. And then I'll get into like where people who are listening who may want to find us in other places if they haven't already found us.
Sure. Yeah. So agileSherpas.com, you can find all kinds of stuff. We are content forward business, so free resources galore there for anybody who wants to read more about agility and marketing. The good thing about having a weird last name like Fryrear is you can find me pretty easily on LinkedIn, Twitter, and all the places. And I'm Andrea at agileSherpas.com. If anybody wants to reach out, I am happy to chat, answer questions, what have you. Mastering Marketing Agility is on Amazon, as well as a free chapter is on agileSherpas.com if you want to try it out. And awesome. And one of the certs that we offer is through the International Consortium for Agile, or IC Agile. they're a certifying body, right? They basically create the learning objectives for certain courses, and then organizations like Agile Sherpas build courses that meet those learning objectives. And then IC Agile reviews them and decides if we did it right or not, and makes sure that our instructors are qualified and all of those good things. So yeah, they're a certifying body, Scrum Alliance, scrum.org, right? Similar kind of group.
Yeah, which is excuse me, which
So
is really very, very cool. And IC Agile does focus on actual implementation. A little less on here is a process, but here's the reality. So that's pretty impressive. And Agile Sherpas does have a nice newsletter that I find actually valuable. And yes, I get way too many newsletters, and so I cancel many of them, but I continue to read yours. So there's good little snippets in there.
Thank you. That makes me very, very happy to know we add value to your inbox.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And not many people do. My inbox it's too dang big.
Yeah.
So I need to KonMari my inbox for sure. And definitely get rid of a lot of stuff. All this information will be in the show notes. And Cynthia, where can people find the show notes? Where can people find us?
Well, we are on all of the social media sites: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and even Tumblr if you're still there. Video version will be on our website, agile-world.news, and it'll be on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/agileworld, one word. Our podcasts go absolutely everywhere: Spotify, Apple, Google, Pocket Casts, Anchor, Breaker, Radio Public, Stitcher, and Castbox. So if you, Andrea, have any friends with any ideas, or anybody you know who wants to be a guest or with on Agile World, any flavor, you can email me, Cynthia, at agile-world.news, or Steve at agile-world.news. So we're everywhere you want to be, baby. We are everywhere. Thank you so much for answering my invite.
There you go. And with 12 teachers from around the world, you probably have some that speak different languages. So
We do. Yes, indeed.
Reach out to them. If we don't have a show in their language yet, well, maybe we should chat.
Yeah, maybe they should volunteer. Oh, that's another thing. Agile World is 100% volunteer organization, and we have a lot of things. So if you want to become involved, not necessarily be a host, please let us know and check it out. Because if you want to be agile and spread the world, make everybody agile, let's do it.
There you go. Thank you so much, Andrea. You've been wonderful. I really enjoyed our chat. I want to learn more, and so we'll probably be reaching out. What now? Are you doing any speaking coming up soon?
Yeah, trying to get back into it. It was a weird year there was a lot of this kind of virtual fun stuff, but yeah, hoping to get back on the road and see humans face to face again.
A few weeks ago, I was talking to some people, and I said, and it's so rare when you get to be face to face with people, and I realized we were on Zoom. Is that wrong? We were still on Zoom, and I said, oh, we're face to face. I had 5 events in the last 10 days, though.
Wow.
Some Agile events, some shows, things like that. I even went to a concert a couple days ago.
Oh, there you go.
It was awesome. Anyway, Andrea, thank you so much. Cynthia, this has been lots of fun, and we will talk soon. Everybody.
Peace out. Bye.
Bye-bye.